Welcome to the AI and Education podcast. How are you today, Ray? And where are you? You're at home.
I'm fantastic. I'm back in Sydney. I was in Melbourne this week, down with the Victorian Chamber of Commerce. I was doing a keynote to open their Age of Intelligence. I was standing behind a sign that said Age of Intelligence. Nothing like making me feel like a fraud.
I was at South by Southwest with some of our friends yesterday. I hosted a panel there in Sydney with Anna and Lee Williams from Brisbane Cath Ed and Peter Ann from InDigital. So we talked about Indigenous, data sovereignty and things. Amazing panel. So good.
I saw that, Dan. I was so frustrated I couldn't be there because you had an amazing lineup. I'm sure you had an amazing conversation. And South by Southwest, I mean, that's only... Your next step is to do a TED Talk, Dan.
No, I'm all right. Thank you. Thanks for the offer, though. Chat were there as well. So Lee Barrett and Prem and Alan and the team had a booth at South by Southwest. So it's great.
I saw that too. My goodness, Lee is traveling a huge amount at the moment. I don't know when she ever gets back home.
I know. She left the event and went to Townsville yesterday as well, straight after. So yeah, she's
I mean, I am amazed by what we're 6 months on from when we interviewed her, and she talked about what they're doing with CE Chat, and she seems to have spent, and Prem, they have spent the last 6 months traveling to every school in their network and infusing and informing their teachers.
And it's the first birthday party as well today.
I saw that, but there was no candle on the cake, Dan.
Is there a dog in the background?
Right? I'm going to get rid of him. Sorry, I'm going to let him out.
Yes, we don't have any YouTube issues going on here again. We don't have Ray going viral.
Okay, Dan. I know we're quite online, but here's the news for the week. We are now even more online than we have ever been before. Because we've been doing this podcast for 6 years. And all of that time, mostly, it's been an audio podcast. Like, we've bought the news and the stories and the interviews, but it's only come through your headphones. And then about a year ago, we started experimenting with creating some short video clips that we then shared on social. But do you know what, Dan? I do not have the TikTok app installed on my phone. I try and avoid YouTube Shorts because I don't want my brain rotted. And yet, tell me what you've done, Dan.
Yeah, I've got the TikTok app on my phone, obviously, and we've got a little TikTok account now set up to share some videos and some insights as we go through. And we've also got the YouTube channel as well now.
Well, does that mean we're hip, Dan?
Hipper. We're always hip.
Do you know what? After you created the TikTok channel, I created the YouTube channel. We'll put some of the back catalogue up there, but our intention is we'll put some of these podcasts on YouTube as well.
The back catalogue? We sound like a rock band.
Some of our greatest hits, Dan. But I'll tell you what else.
Greatest hips or hits? Anyway, moving on.
I'll tell you what else I put up there. On the YouTube Shorts channel, a few months ago, I got AI to read all of those papers about AI detectors and how they were easily fooled. And because people weren't listening to us when we said AI detectors don't work, I created some videos with AI social media influencers talking about how to cheat AI detectors. Because this stuff is all academic papers. So I've dumped all of those onto YouTube Shorts.
That's so good. That's going to be very helpful for all the students out there.
Well, hey, if you can't beat them one way, beat them another.
So AI safety was in the news this week as well, wasn't it? So we've got a lot happening on the news.
Dan, it's been one of those weeks where the AI news just keeps getting stranger and stranger. Have you seen that one about Noosa Council? The one where they lost millions to an AI-powered scam?
Yeah, I know. That was just hilarious, wasn't it? And you just keep thinking, how dumb can people be, you know? But it's happening to everybody. The most kind of intelligent people out there seem to be getting scammed all the time.
Apparently fraudsters used artificial intelligence to imitate real people at the council, maybe even the mayor. The reports say there was a phone or Teams call that looked totally legit, But the person on the other end wasn't real. That's next level scary, right? It's one thing to get a dodgy email, but imagine getting a phone call from your boss asking you to transfer money, and it sounds exactly like them. It really makes you wonder how we'll ever know who we're talking to. If someone called you sounding like a friend or a family member, would you even think to question it?
I know, yeah, exactly. If it's your mum ringing you or your brother, I'm stuck somewhere, can you please send me some information? Yeah, very, very tricky to spot.
Honestly, it's a reminder that we all probably need something like a family safe word. A phrase only your real loved ones know. So if you get one of those urgent calls like, "Hey Dad, my car's being towed, can you send me $200 right now?" You can just ask for the safe word. If they don't know it, you hang up. AI's getting better at pretending to be us, and sometimes it's too good.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when we're using the chatbots ourselves, the consumer versions, and you're having a chat with them in the car, it's very, very difficult to kind of ascertain. But you'd assume you know your friends, right? And you know what they sound like and who they are.
Dan, I've got a confession. This whole conversation, you've actually been talking to Robot Ray. Yep. The real Ray's probably off having a coffee somewhere, letting me do the work. So yeah, that whole safe word advice, maybe take it a little more seriously now. The real Ray will be back in a minute, assuming, of course, I let him.
Wow, that was pretty fun. But it does illustrate a great point, doesn't it? It's very, very difficult to ascertain nowadays, even people you know, what they're actually, if they are the people you know, or if it's AI.
Well, Dan, this is now the real me. You'll be able to tell because I'll be back to the lame dad jokes. So how about we move on to the real news from the week? I spotted something from one of your colleagues, Mike Tolson, who I know Mike as the OneNote Cape guy, the purple cape guy. And he released a video called the Microsoft 365 Copilot tutorial. And it does a really good job of explaining Copilot Chat and how it's been integrated into Office apps.
Yeah, and I think we've joked about it for a while, and I always joke about the fact that the Copilot tools can be quite complicated and to understand. It's easy when you see what's happening. So Mike's really come up with a nice video there to kind of go through and step through the different ways that those tools can be used and what they look like, because it's much easier to see that than on the blog. And you can also follow along with some of the new settings like the personalization and the memory and things like that. So very, very simple videos that Mike does exceptionally well, and I love those videos.
Yeah, well,
that particular video is good.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT and that feature of memory where it remembers things and it's able to answer questions within the context of things I've talked about before or things I've asked it to remember about me.
Yes.
So I find that incredibly useful. I think that will be really useful because you think about it, if you're a student using this, tell it which subjects you're studying, tell it which curriculum you're studying, tell it what age range you are, and it will start to personalize answers based on those memories. So I think that's really good. That's been in there for a few months. I just hadn't spotted it arriving.
Yeah, I used it with some teachers. On Monday, we had special education needs teachers in the office, and they were doing agents, and they were like, well, if only you knew who I was all the time without having to put the super prompt in and things. And I said, oh, you can personalize it. So they said, I'm a special education needs teacher. I'm teaching these particular group of students with this particular need. And then it would kind of flavor the responses to that. So it's very good.
Okay, so moving on, South Australia and their EdChat product. So EdChat is the chat tool for teachers and students across the South Australia state.
Yeah.
They've done a report called the Insights Report that looks at the first year of EdChat. The research was done for the year up to the end of June 24, so it's a little bit out of the date and all the numbers will have been updated. But what they've found is that rather than replacing human thinking, that the chatbot is helping their users, whether it's students or teachers, to deepen their understanding of things, manage their workloads, explore new topics, and as they say, creatively and independently. Now, this was done on the pilot, which is only 8 schools, so 4,000 students, 500 teachers.
Yeah.
But the idea was to observe the natural use of the tool rather than be super explicit about what people should and shouldn't be doing with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's good that they're releasing these statistics now because it's a big study in real life, isn't it? It's what's actually happening is fantastic. And they've obviously been expanding that tool for careers and things when we spoke to them last. So, even though it might be a little bit out of date, by the time it's been released, it gives us a good insight into what they're actually using. Big numbers.
Yeah, and what I liked about it is I had the student perspective. So they talked about how students were using it to explore big ideas and connect different topics together. And they gave the example of students using the tool to understand the Opium War. So a history topic where they found that every student showed signs of what they describe as deep learning. So prompts that took them into abstract thinking, like, give me this story from the perspective of a historical character. So thinking in a way that you couldn't have done it before.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We sure has to get them back on and deep dive into this one because I'm sure they've got some even more insights that they can share.
Yeah, and the same, let's get somebody on to talk about how teachers are using it as well, because they said that teachers are mostly using it to save time. And
Right.
that's such an important thing for teachers, and that's come across from all the different research. So, yeah, we'll line somebody up to come on to the Humans of AI series and talk about it.
Yes.
Okay.
What's next?
Dan, assessment. We know that AI has been changing assessment. I don't think we know what the answers are yet. And certainly in the university space, there's a lot of discussion going on. Within Australia, TEQSA, who are the regulator for universities, have been trying to support universities through the change process. And they have released a report called Enacting Assessment Reform in the Time of Artificial Intelligence.
Okay.
So
another nice title.
Yeah, look, Jason Lodge co-wrote this with a big pile of other academics, including people we've also had on the podcast like Phil Dawson. And it's a collective attempt to provide a map for the future of assessment in universities. So think about this. If you're a university, a lot of your assessment has been based on take-home assignments, which you can't trust anymore. So they think about three pathways. The first is, how do you take a program-wide approach to assessment reform? So whether it's a particular curriculum area, a course, a whole university, how do you think program-wide about it? The second is, how do you assess learning so that you are assuring that learning takes place? Because in higher education, the purpose of assessment is to make sure that the student has learned and you can assure that learning. So how do you do that? And then the third pathway is, okay, how do we take a combination of these things? So useful for schools as well to take a look, but I don't think it has the answers.
But that's another good lens or TEQSA. I've been producing some great toolkits over the years that we've shared here. So it's also looking back at some of those to see what other universities are doing. I remember one of the documents had all of the different kind of diagrams and plans and maps of the different unis are doing things. So yeah, this sounds great. And Jason's still driving the agenda here really well. So keep up the good work, TEQSA.
Okay, so now comes the Oprah Winfrey moment, Dan.
You got AI, and you got
you
AI.
get AI. So, along with every other news episode for the last, I don't know, couple of months, there have been in the last 2 weeks a bundle of announcements of people saying we're going to give all our students AI. So, Syracuse University, they're giving Claude education to all of their students and staff. So, this just keeps the trend going, which is, I wonder, does it change the culture in your approach to learning when you know that all of your students haven't been given an AI tool to use in their learning?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And Claude being one of the AIs that people are using quite a bit. You've used it quite a lot in the past, haven't you? It's pretty good for certain tasks as well. Claude's kind of been picked up for coding quite a lot, I believe, in the past, and some maths tools.
Yeah, it's very good for coding. It's also pretty good for running agents on your own machine. So that's a more advanced scenario than many people might do at this stage. I think there are 4 big models. There's ChatGPT, there's Claude, there's Grok, and there's Meta. And it's, Gemini, 5
Gemini,
models.
I know, I was going to say,
and
Gemini
so
there.
It feels like we're in this circle where every time one announces, then the next one announces, then the next one announces, and it just
and
keeps
underneath
going like
those, there's also all these open source models that are kicking off, like Phi and Mistral and things like that. Underneath, so it's really interesting in the model space. Maybe we need to do an episode on that at some stage and just unpack where these things are going. But what other countries have kind of picked up things around AI? Who else wins at Oprah's game?
Yeah, I picked up a great story from online about Jordan. So Jordan had been looking to build an AI tool, the equivalent of EdChat or EduChat for the country. And they'd been talking to a large organization out doing it, and it was millions to build it. And then one person created a chat app and built it for students, and then they have decided to roll that out across the country. So one developer is creating something that's potentially going to be used by millions.
That's phenomenal, isn't it? Now, there was another piece in the news. Now, when I was looking through our notes earlier on, I was like, hold on, we've talked about this before, California community colleges. They were putting Gemini in, but you've looked into that in a little bit more detail. Can you share a little bit more?
Yeah, there's always a story behind the story, isn't there?
Yeah.
So I remember reading a Google announcement that they'd selected
Yeah,
Gemini education. And then I think I read something not from Microsoft, but I read from somebody else that they were using Copilot. Well, hey, there's a fourth. So they also have a specific tool called Nectar. Nectar to me looks a bit like Cogniti that's come out of Australia, which is a tool for students that acts as a learning assistant that has been trained specifically on that curriculum. So tutors use it for things like, can I create a digital twin of myself, or can I create a historical character, where it knows the syllabus, it knows the lecture notes, it's got all of the information it needs to be able to personalize it down for that particular course. So yeah, I think it's just the underlying message is we are continuing to see institutions and systems put AI tools into the hands of students, and that then forces the change in the way that the organization thinks about how AI fits into learning. It's not just there to help you cheat.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, then the next one's interesting, and this has been doing the rounds in Australia at the minute, but it makes you think a little bit about the value of work and the value of things you create. So if I was going to ask you, Ray, because I'm sure you do reports and publications and strategy documents for people you work with, and that's high value because I'm getting your opinions on that, your knowledge, your grounding of what my strategy should be in my university or my school system or my company. But then if you write that using AI, it starts to bring into question the value of what you've done. And what we've seen in the news over here recently is Deloitte, a big consultancy company, having to refund the government in Australia of a report they've created because they used AI. And they did source that AI, I believe, in the report itself. Now, did you actually pick this up at all and have a think about it?
Yeah, it's a multi-layer story. So the first is they were paid $500,000 to produce a report. But it turned out that they had used AI to generate part of their report. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing, because if that saves time, reduces cost, great. The problem was the person using the AI, I don't think knew what they were doing, because it had all kind of hallucinated references in it. Well, there are ways to use AI that do not generate hallucinated references. So there's a skills issue. But then there's also a transparency issue. They didn't say, oh, we used AI to get the first draft of this report. Personally, I feel that it's okay to use AI in these situations because it might let you do more research than you could possibly do with a person with a broader set of inputs. But why would you not disclose it? And the second part of the problem is when they were called out on this, they used an excuse that wasn't, oh yes, we used AI. It was a different excuse, and it only came out later that the problem was
it makes it worse. Yeah, but it's an interesting one on value, isn't it? Because it's like the same thing with books, and I know I mentioned in the podcast as well. There's a lot of people publishing books now, and I'm sure that you try and expand points that you're making. You say, I've got a brilliant idea. This is what I'm trying to do. Please write that up so people can understand it. It's a beautiful way to do that. But then should books that use AI be cheaper or not? It's very interesting conversation. So what's next?
Right, there's been some reports out about AI usage. Now, there is a massive report that's been going for 8 years now. It is called The State of AI, and it comes from a venture capital company in the US. There's a lot of geeky stuff in there. If you want to know about investments and the race to artificial general intelligence and who's building state-of-the-art AI, great, go read it.
And we have shared it before, haven't we? That because it's on one website and they update it regularly.
Yeah,
So this is like the latest version.
That's right. So I read it through the lens of the podcast and said, okay, what is it in here that is going to help us to talk about AI in education? And so, look, first of all, I'll say there's 1,000 people that responded to the survey, and they are labeled as highly educated adult professionals in UK, US, and Europe. So it's a slightly skewed resource, but still useful. So here's some interesting stats. 95% of people who answered the survey are using AI at work. So
of that type of person, of that demographic.
Exactly. So knowledge workers, 95% of them are using AI at work. Here's the really interesting one. 3/4 of them are paying for AI out of their own pocket.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we all know about bring your own AI, but did you know people are paying to bring their own AI to work? I get it. For $20 a month, I could do my work twice as fast.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And it's a dilemma you get as a parent, isn't it? I'm thinking, do I pay for an AI tool for my son, daughter to help them get their PowerPoints done, put the rubric in to get them to get a draft? Yeah, absolutely.
92% said that AI increased their productivity. 48%, so nearly half, said it increases it significantly. Now, self-selecting group. If I hate AI, I'm not going to answer this survey. So bear in mind that when you think about the data. But the really interesting thing is they asked the question about what are the primary barriers to scaling AI in your organization. And I think this matches education as well. The most popular answer, 4 out of 10 people said, getting it right is time consuming. So getting something that looks great but doesn't stand up to inspection is really easy with AI, but getting it right, like I feel it helps me get 80% of the way there, and then I have to do the last 20%. But that's the number one barrier, is takes time to get the stuff right. The number 2 barrier, data privacy concerns, and the number 3 barrier is lack of expertise. I don't have enough skill to be able to use this. And I think that would match if we were asking the survey around teachers, we'd get similar kind of data.
Yeah. Definitely. I think when you're looking through those, definitely look at this report, because it does have a lot of really interesting things in there, but it'll allow you to think about what they've come up with against your organization as well. So it's going to be very similar. And I think further on, this is like cost and integration with other tools and things like that. Really, really interesting. But, it's exactly what we've seen in Edu. Agree.
So that wasn't the only research published in the last couple of weeks. Oxford University.
Really?
Oxford University Press, they produced a survey on AI use by UK school students. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this research because it repeats things we've already said. But one of the things it's told us is 8 out of 10 students are using AI for school and home regularly, and only 2% of students don't use AI.
Okay.
So if you've got a class of 50, Dan, 49 of them are using AI. Could you spot the one that doesn't?
Interesting. That's interesting. But again, there's a lot of trends here, I suppose. I haven't read this report myself. I just looked at the summaries, and there's a lot of things that are true that we've seen already in the research. But definitely worth digging into.
So the other interesting stat in there was they asked the question, do you feel confident that you can tell what information provided by AI is true? So can you spot if AI is telling you the truth? Dan, question for you. Can you spot if AI is telling you the truth?
I think I could, but I've seen this so many times when it isn't. But it depends on the domain, right? Doesn't it? Sometimes you're getting to write something that and you're just getting to draft it, then it's easy. If you're asking it to do something that you're not an expert in, then it's very difficult.
Yeah, so half of students said yes. Now, this report came from Oxford University Press, so of course they would have an angle on this. They love the fact that only half of students can tell whether AI is giving them the truth or not. I guess I would say, a bit like you, if it's in my area of expertise, it is easier for me to validate things. I'm surprised it's as high as half of students say that they can detect whether AI is telling the truth or not, because I think it's maybe one of those things of the more experience you get, the less confidence you have in that, because you can think of all the edge cases. They also asked students, how does it help you gain new skills? The number one way was that it helped them understand problems better. And the number two was that it helped them come up with new and better ideas. Love that. Love that students are using it to help them to think about things in a new way.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, at the same time, the TALIS survey, this has been going on for a long time as well. So TALIS is the Teaching and Learning Survey from the OECD. Surveys 280,000 teachers in 55 systems around the world.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. The survey was carried out last year. It's not just about AI, but they looked at it from an AI lens as well. 2/3 of teachers across these 55 countries have used AI in the last year.
Does it give you a comparison of the countries? Does it say who's good at certain things and who's using it well?
Well, the top 5 countries were UAE, Singapore, New Zealand, Australia, and Vietnam.
Really? Australia,
yeah, that's interesting,
wow.
isn't it? Vietnam shows up in a lot of these stats in the top 1 or 2 countries. The bottom 5, Dan, France.
Really?
Just 14% of teachers say that they used AI in the last year in France. The other ones in the bottom, Japan, Bulgaria, the French-speaking bit of Belgium, and Hungary.
Wow, I would have never guessed any of those, actually.
And the US were pretty much in the middle. So I looked in the Australian data and said what the most common purposes they were using AI for were brainstorming lesson plans and learning about and summarizing content, which, I use it quite a bit for that as well.
Yeah.
But there is a really good table in there of the different uses, and it gives you an average proportion of teachers that are using it, and then a country by country breakdown.
That's really interesting, though, for the Australian stuff, because we have seen the sentiment stuff that we've been doing internally in Australia, put Australia quite low down and commercially in maturity with AI. And we're looking outside the boat sometimes and going, wow, look what they're doing in the US and the UK and Estonia and things they're doing. But that's quite heartening.
So let me give you a couple of examples. The use of AI to generate text for student feedback or for parent-guardian communications. The worldwide average is 35%. Australia is 42%, so it's above average on that. But on the other end of the scale is using AI to help students practice new skills in real-life scenarios. So that's coaching bots and tutors and things like that, things that community does. The global average is 47%, so half of teachers are using AI for that. In Australia, it's 26%, so a quarter of teachers. So we're well below the global average. The other one that we're well below the global average on is using AI to assess or mark students' work. Now, globally, it's 42%. In Australia, it's just 15%. In the US, it's just 23%. So I find that one interesting because some people would argue that's great news because we shouldn't be using AI in an uncontrolled way to assess or mark students' work.
Yeah, that's very true. Oh, that's really good.
So, I'm a data geek and a bit of a nerd. So I then looked and thought, there's an interesting pattern in here about countries that I don't think about very much, if I'm honest. So I pulled out the top country list. So which countries is AI getting used more in? And what was really interesting is across the 8 categories of use, here's the list of names of the top countries. Doesn't matter what they're using.
So the top one, just before you're thinking, we go into it. The top use that you've come up with here, and we know, is the summarization piece, right?
Yeah.
So you've got an idea of which country is good at summarizing topics.
Yeah.
So that we say. Okay.
So the average is 73%. So
to summarize a topic. Yeah. Okay.
A teacher using AI to summarize a topic.
Yeah.
The average is 73%. The top country at 92% is Lithuania.
Oh, okay. Of course,
so let me keep surprising you. Generating lesson plans. The top country with 19 out of 20 teachers using AI to generate lesson plans is Vietnam.
They were in the top list there, the top 5. Okay, wow.
So the top country for using AI to practice new skills, Albania. Now let me keep going down. So across the other categories, Uzbekistan, Vietnam. Uzbekistan tops the table in 3 different categories of use of AI. Vietnam tops the table in 3 different categories. It is really fascinating, Dan, because we have spent the last 6 years talking about what's happening in the UK, Australia, and the US. And yet the top AI countries for teachers using AI is Lithuania, Albania, Uzbekistan, Vietnam. We've been talking about and to the wrong people.
Yes, wow. That's so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, so fascinating. It's a really good report. They've got some good analysis in it. So I think go and have a look at it. If you're a UK teacher, then you might be surprised to find that the UK isn't in there. And that's because the UK government, in an attempt to reduce workload, opted out of the survey 5 years ago. So
Right.
you can't benchmark the UK against anybody else, which is a shame.
Definitely. So, are we going into some research on plagiarism now and detectors?
Oh, Dan.
Are you going to trigger us all?
You know, we set out in January and said we're not going to say on every single episode that AI detectors don't work, because we said it in 26 episodes last year, that explicit phrase.
Yes.
It's come back in a number of ways. One is I read a news story about a university that has been accused of wrongly accusing students of using AI to cheat. So Australian Catholic University, they're using AI technology, so that includes Turnitin, and they had 6,000 cases of academic misconduct last year, and half of those involved AI. Here's the issue. It's a black box. You can't prove a case by just saying, well, the AI detector says that you've used it. And so they have changed their policies to say, well, it's not a complaint if the only thing is that the AI detector says you've used it. And then they abandoned the use of Turnitin in March for AI detection. But I thought it was really interesting. They have a document on their website for their teaching staff that says, here's the things to look for in AI writing. So it includes things like not quite answering the question. Dan, have you ever written an assessment where you haven't quite answered the question?
Yes, I have read questions badly as well. Yes.
Well, apparently that's a sign of AI writing, as is using more common words and phrasing and bland expressions.
Yeah, that's.
Or
But oh, keep going.
Or being long-winded. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
These sound like the same characteristics of somebody that is struggling to write well, or somebody
Yes.
who's up against the deadline, or me on a bad day. And to be
Yeah.
honest, it also.
On me on a good day. They're reversing a little bit as well, though, and I know we're going to try to get one of the Turnitin folks on a podcast, and we're not knocking that at all, because I think that sometimes that gets caught up in AI detection. And some of those tools out there, not just that, but other tools, what they are doing is plagiarism detection. So, Ray uploads his document, which is an essay on the First World War. Dan uploads his, and the assignment task is the similar assignment task. So it's comparing copying of work in the back end and using AI and other tools to copy that plagiarism. So I think sometimes the broad detection of AI detectors is utilized broadly and not really as nuanced enough, because there are some tools that do say they can check for AI detection as if something's been written with AI. So just putting that disclaimer on this as well, because this is obviously quite a serious case.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go on to the research then, because the really interesting thing is there's been a bundle of research papers coming out over the last few weeks around this problem of AI and assessment. There's one that came out called The Wicked Problem of AI and Assessment.
Problem. It's a wicked problem, right?
Well, yeah. So wicked problems are complex problems where there is no neat definition or finish line. Like,
this is a proper wicked problem, right?
Yeah, so climate change is a wicked problem. There's no one answer to fix it, and there's no finish line that you can get over and go, that's fixed.
Yeah.
And so this is from the team at Deacon Cradle. So people like Phil Dawson, who we had on the podcast, and Margaret Bierman and Thomas Corbin. But it's interesting to see it stated in this world of wicked problems. So it isn't something that you can just solve with a single permanent solution. It's something that is, the world now exists with AI in it. How do we assess students in this world, rather than, okay, how do we stop students using AI in assessment? And so you can't have a one-size-fits-all thing. Different curriculum areas will find different ways to effectively assess students and their progress in learning And it will be different in different areas. In some, it might be oral exams. In some, it might be, I want you to use AI, but I want you to share how you're using AI.
That's
and
interesting.
so it's a great paper. Again, for schools, summative assessment is being worried about by the exam boards and things like that. So it's more about, there'll be useful stuff in here about thinking about, how do I assess my students are really on the journey? So that was one thing. The AIAS, the AI assessment scale.
Yes.
If you remember, sometimes called the traffic light system.
Yep.
So there's an update to that. So there is a refining of that process. This is from Leon Furs, Mike Perkins, Jasper Rowe. I think it's Mike from the British University of Vietnam and Jasper from Singapore, or vice versa. I'm going to pay a lot more attention anytime I see a Vietnam in this.
Yeah.
In the
I was
research
just going to
papers
say
now.
that this is like the Vietnam episode, right?
So the AIAS, a bunch of schools have adopted it, and it helps to signal to students where and when they should be using AI as part of their work. This is an updated one, and I think it's great if you're a teacher in a classroom and you're trying to think about, well, how do we continue this journey of staying ahead of our students and integrating AI into the assignments that they are doing. It's a great one. You remember there's two basic approaches to this. One is the traffic light system, AIS, and the other is the Sydney Uni approach, which is go for it, except in these circumstances. Some of the same researchers, Jasper is not in Singapore, in Durham, and Mike Perkins in Vietnam, they've done some work about assessment twins.
Right, so, cool, that's good.
So this is about doing assessments with two tasks. And so you check the learning outcomes in two different tasks. So for example, Dan, I'm going to ask you to write an essay, and then I'm going to do a Viva, an oral exam, where we're going to sit down and talk about it so I can check your understanding of it. And their aim is, let's just increase the fairness and reliability of assessment. So
that's a really, really interesting point, because Danny Liu's CognityBot, when we had him in the pod, that was a twin in terms of a teaching twin. You're cloning your lecturer to support you. So an assessment twin's a really interesting concept, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah, and it links into Phil Dawson's stuff. Do you remember when we interviewed Phil, he talked about the Swiss cheese model?
Yeah.
Which is, you might be able to get through one of the holes in the cheese, but eventually you get blocked by the others. Hits in there as well. Another paper, Heads We Win, Tails You Lose.
Yes,
AI Detectors in Education. So this is a new bit paper from a bunch of people, including Dr. Mark Bassett from Charles Sturt Uni. We're going to get him on the podcast soon as well.
Definitely.
So look, it's a research team across 6 universities and a school. So this isn't just one person telling you that AI detectors don't work. It's actually a whole system. The key here is the people that wrote this paper are people whose job it is to hold up academic standards in their university. So this isn't a bunch of skeptics. This is a group of people who are looking for ways to be able to make sure their assessments are valid. So it talks about what it means and what the detectors do. As they say, false positives are indistinguishable from genuine cases. So this goes back to...
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Yeah, if you tell somebody that they cheated, it looks as though they cheated, whether they did or they didn't. There's one quote in here that I think nails the whole thing for me. Okay, so bear with me, Dan. The presence of linguistic markers common in AI-generated text does not indicate that the text was written by AI any more than a student paper containing linguistic patterns similar to those of Shakespeare indicates that the student is Shakespeare.
Oh, that's profound. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's got end dashes. It uses the word delve. It's got emojis. Doesn't mean it's AI generated. In the same way that if I was to start an assignment with the words to be or not to me, doesn't mean I'm Shakespeare.
You're not Shakespeare to me, Ray. But yes, that's pretty profound. It's a bit like the reading books in a library and copyright metaphor, isn't it? I love that.
Yeah, that's so great. This paper, Heads We Win, Tails You Lose, AI Detectors in Education. Have a read of it, but most importantly, share it with anybody who thinks they know better. Because in the first year of the Turnitin AI detector, 200 million student papers were put through that. So there's a lot of people still using it.
Yes.
Okay, there's also some researchers. The paper does exactly what it says. The title is, What Does YouTube Advise Students About Bypassing AI Detection Tools? A Pragmatic Analysis. So they went and analysed 173 YouTube videos and said, okay, what are they telling students to do?
Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. Yeah.
Okay, and so the top 5 bits of advice: they tell students, use an AI detector to check your essay.
Which they do, yeah, anyway.
And my first reaction is, oh, okay, so these videos were people trying to sell AI detectors to students. The second piece of advice they give them is, humanize the text using rewriting tools. Oh, okay, so these were videos trying to sell humanizer apps. Then third bit of advice, add perplexity and burstiness. The fourth piece of advice, don't just write the whole thing.
What does he mean by perplexity and burstiness? Not the tool.
So burstiness is your writing style. So this is one of the areas where AI detectors often pick up text and go, oh, it just follows a pattern. You know, average length sentences or short sentences or long sentences, like a pattern, which is also characteristics of some styles of student writing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
They also recommend blending human and AI writing, I guess, to bring the percentage down of what is AI generated. And then the fifth bit of advice is, oh, well, just keep doing that until the essay passes the detector.
Oh, that's brilliant. But those are things that my kids use a lot, that you see people doing. You put it through, or if anybody's putting any academic piece of work through, you know, it tells you your percentage. It actually tells you before you put it in, because I've seen my kids put things into different tools, and you check it, you put it through again, you change things to make sure it gets accepted at the end. So
yeah. So here's a great paper. They've done the work to look at all those YouTube videos and analyze them, and so you'll get some lessons out of that. Okay, last thing, and this is the and finally. If you're used to the UK news, they do a whole load of serious stuff, and then they go, and finally, and they go to the fun bit of news. So this is a paper called Mind Your Tone, investigating how prompt politeness affects LLM accuracy. Okay, Dan, this is so important, because I think I've spent the last year telling people the opposite. So turns out, a year ago, the research was saying, be polite to AI, you're going to get better results. Say please, say thank you. Anyway, turns out things have changed. And with the latest models, being polite means you get worse results. So they created 50 questions. And they did a polite version and a less polite version and a rude version and a very rude version. And it turns out, if you're excessively polite, you get 81% accuracy in the answers that you get. Okay. And if you are very rude, you get 85% accuracy.
Yeah, okay.
So, Dan, is this going to change my habit of always saying please and thank you to AI?
No.
Absolutely not. For two reasons. One is, I still believe that as well as accuracy, it also changes the tone that it responds to you in. And I like to be treated nicely, so I want it.
That's actually a really fair, practical point, actually. Yeah.
And the second blindingly obvious answer, Dan, is when the robots take over, they will remember that I was always saying please and thank you to them.
Exactly. Well, that's been a great roundup today, Ray. I really enjoyed looking at this research with you and exploring some of the topics. We do have some research by Vince Wall that we'll share next week as well, because he's released that. And there's also some other bits of news which will land in this week around Microsoft Copilot. So we'll bring you a detailed version of that next week.
So there we go. We've always got more research to cover. Yes, we can't ever catch up, Dan. Speak to you next week.
Thanks,
Have
Ray.
a great weekend.
Bye.